Good morning and welcome. It's Rochester today, Friday. I'm Andy Brownell on News Talk 1340, KROC AM and 96.9 FM. And it's time to check in with Patrick Seeb with the Destination Medical Center for our monthly update on everything DMC, right, Patrick?
Well, not quite everything. Whatever we can squeeze in this time that you have available. But we love to have this chance. So thank you.
You've had a very busy week or so, and I guess we'll start out right away with last week and the annual meeting, our celebration, or however you want to term it, which Mother Nature forced indoors, unfortunately.
Well, so yes, it is such a wonderful opportunity to come together as a community and celebrate progress and milestones, and do it in a sense of like looking back and saying, hey, this is what we accomplished. Not all easy work, but it looks pretty darn good what we've accomplished together. And by the way, for all of that, for being successful, you got a whole nother year of doing more. And let's talk about what that looks like as well. So I think it's really important for the community to come together in this way. And with more than 400 people joining us, we did come indoors, avoiding the wind and rain that Mother Nature. I think we've gone 2 or 3 months without much rain, but we got it just on time for this event.
It's what you call Murphy's Law, right?
That's right.
So you mentioned looking back. What were the major accomplishments you celebrated at the meeting, looking back over the past year?
Yeah, we celebrated the completion of Discovery Walk, and you and I have talked about this right here on your program, and this. So I'll just remind you listeners that actually 5 years ago, on the anniversary of this recent annual meeting, we had the annual meeting on Discovery Walk, or what was not Discovery Walk, but the street that has become Discovery Walk and to Discovery Square. So 5 years ago, almost to the day, well, actually to the day of that annual meeting, we had a annual meeting in the location and said, here's what's coming. And in fact, it came, and including Discovery Walk, including to Discovery Square, Soldiers Field and the Aquatic Center. We took note of that. More than 65,000 people use the Aquatic Center. I think double some of the rate of previous years. So we know that has been a hit with the community, and DMC was pleased to be a part of the supporting cast, if you will, of resources to help get that project done. And so we noted that and acknowledged that, and we're starting to really see how I think all of these pieces come together. And I will also say, Andy, it has been less than a year that Mayo Clinic publicly announced their Bold-Forward-Unbound project. It seems like it's been with us for a while, but it's been less than a year. And I will tell you, teams of people are mobilized to work together to see that project through. And that was part of the discussion at the DMCC board meeting, is how do we roll up our sleeves? What role do we play in seeing that project through, seeing the bus rapid transit project through, which happens through the same geography? How does the West Transit Village, understanding these all they seem like individual separate projects, but in fact, they are in the same geography and ultimately will form one sort of constellation of initiative that really will bolster and strengthen Rochester for years to come.
It's hard to imagine what things will look like 5 to 7 years from now. As if you mentioned 5 years ago when you were just launching Discovery Walk, and I have a hard time believing that was 5 years ago, in fact.
Yeah. Yeah, change happens. People talk about this with their kids. The days are long and the years are short, and so as you're raising your kids, the changes are really slow, and it's a lot of work and takes a lot of attention. And then you look back and you think, wow, how did 10 years go by? How did 5 years go by?
I'm with you on that one. Blink of an eye.
In a blink of an eye. It doesn't feel like it while you're in the middle of it, because there's a lot of challenges, and And I have to just say, our community, our business community, our municipal partners, our nonprofit organizations, the development community, real estate development. I mean, everybody is really working hand in hand to be successful during this transition, and that's a great starting point.
And you mentioned that the board, when it got together just the other day, yesterday, in fact, talked about what DMC's role could be during what could be challenging times. You're talking about a very logistically complex situation. What kind of things did they discuss?
Well, so the idea of being very intentional and thoughtful around construction sequencing. When do streets get closed? When streets are closed for infrastructure for Mayo Clinic, what other things should be done when the street is under construction? How do we sequence this work so that the people coming into our community, commuters, residents, workers, visitors, that they can navigate their way through the city, and knowing that the way you get downtown one week may look very different a month from now. How do you make it easy for people? How do you actually create joy out of this transformation? How do we involve our fifth graders to come and learn and watch their city change? Because these fifth graders will be high schoolers when this is done, and then they will be contributing members of our economy not long after. So how do we actually turn this into something that we celebrate, that we use it as for people who want to see the most innovative healthcare environment being built, to come and visit Rochester and actually watch it happen? I think those are the opportunities that we need to create for ourselves. How do we create ambassadors who maybe like the people who help with school crossings, but they are ambassadors that help people navigate through the city during construction, and they put on a very positive face and positive energy for this, rather than it being crippling for the sort of functionality of our city. It's really turning it into a positive, rather than kind of feeling like it's something we have to suffer through.
You have a short amount of time to run up to this, because it sounds as if demolition is going to begin any day on some of the properties.
It will. I mean, there will be temporary street closures. There will be demolition that takes place. The biggest, most long-term impacts of the projects, will start to show up next year. The construction for bus rapid transit will start next year. But we have really built a great place in our downtown in the meantime. So we mentioned Discovery Walk. One of the, now that we're past the fall equinox and the nights are getting longer than the days, the lighting installation, for example, in Discovery Walk really has more meaning when you can see it much longer period of the day. And this particular lighting installation is both beautiful on its own, but at sunset every night, which of course, as we know, is getting earlier every day right now. At sunset, it comes on pops on over a 2-minute sequence, and all of the 65 lights, starting with the light furthest from the downtown, illuminate and it takes 2 minutes for each one of these lights to pop on. And it's really quite beautiful. I went down recently just as the system was set up, and it is really quite a lovely experience, and happens every day at sunset. And it's the kind of thing that I think's worth taking a visit, coming downtown and watching for yourself.
Well, it won't be too long when that'll happen right at the end of the workday.
That's right. Come on, dude, don't go there, Andy. Don't go there.
You mentioned the excitement for the young people. I remember when, this goes way back, this is 40 years ago. It's hard for me to say that. Almost 40 years ago, when what was called D5 took place, the redevelopment in the 1980s. And Oh, I was a much younger person.
Yes, weren't we all? Weren't we
And it
all?
was exciting. It was extraordinarily exciting to watch this transformation take place. Now, people who are my age might have had a little bit different viewpoint because they saw the buildings of their childhood go down because they were getting rather decrepit. Um, so I can relate. I could see where when you mentioned fifth graders and bringing them into this and showing them what's going to be taking place as it's happening would spark interest. And I know part of the mission is to retain these young people and
That's
find
right.
these exciting careers to keep them here to be part of our workforce.
That's right. That's right. And maybe we have learned a thing or two from your experience when you talked about it in the 80s, in that while we are building new and we need to keep building new, we should be protecting and preserving some of the legacy of Rochester. And as you know, the city established a downtown historic district. DMC committed to providing resources for buildings within that historic district that want to reinvest in their properties. And we have already had applicants and support for some of that and interest in that. And we're going to start seeing property owners who own buildings in the historic district take advantage of this potential resource from DMC to stabilize, upgrade, protect, and reuse their buildings. And that's the best historic preservation, is when buildings can be reused and occupied and secured, if you will, from roofs and windows and foundations, et cetera. And so the idea of preserving and protecting our legacy while building new, I think, is a lesson that we have learned and we want to invest in.
Fantastic. Another aspect of downtown Rochester, I think, that is overlooked, and I've had visitors who've come to town, and I've highly recommended that they do this. Spend a day checking out the art that's available. I know Mayo Clinic offers some tours for folks that they can see some of the, you know, wonderful works of art that are incorporated into the Mayo campus. But very recently, there was a celebration for a new piece of art downtown, correct?
Yeah, for the lighting piece in Discovery Walk, Sophia Choi,
Oh, so that
Korean born. Pardon me.
okay. So I
Yeah,
have yet to check that out. I
yeah,
got because sunset
yeah.
is still too late.
Yes, yes. Well, you will. This is beautiful street set of lights, 65 of them that run
Right.
this term asymptote, which is comes from geometry, which is a straight line over a undulating land. So the tops of these lights are all at the same level above sea level, even though some lights are 15 feet tall and some lights are 3 feet tall. So they are the top of these lights would create an infinite plane onto the distance, but they're different heights from the ground, if you will, and they come on, as I said, and every night at sunset and come on, each light coming on over a 2-minute period. It's quite lovely. And then there's the poetry by Ayub Omar, poetry in the benches. Really simple, welcoming, almost Dr. Seuss-like poetry in the benches that are, send a signal of optimism and positivity about the world. A really beautiful, really beautiful work. And then there is, this growing collection of public art throughout the city, throughout downtown. Simple things like art on the graffiti art on the walls by Chateau Theater. So everything from simple temporary installations to more permanent installations, local artists, national artists. We're going to have art associated with all of the transit stations as they get built. Art that reminds people that we are in America's city for health. So it really tells a story about health and our economy. So I think there is a lot around public art that we're developing a critical mass here that is really worth a visit. And I think we've developed a walking tour of the art pieces, so people can have their own experience walking and checking it out.
That was my next question.
Self-guided tour, I should say. Self-guided tour.
Yeah, you could easily spend an afternoon just strolling around and seeing the various pieces
That's right.
Those of us who live here take for granted often.
Yeah. We
drive by them or walk by them every day, and they just become part of the background. But if you actually spend time to look at them, you realize that, wow, that's pretty incredible.
That's right.
So a very busy time, as always, in downtown Rochester. I know that you like to brag up the dining experience downtown, and we're continuing to see a very enjoyable dining experience.
I just checked out Mill Valley, which is a new lunch and dinner restaurant in the former Doubletree, home to University of Minnesota Rochester student housing, but it's a public restaurant. Really, really great experience there. And I don't want to go down necessarily doing call outs for restaurants individually, because I may miss one in the process, but I will just say I happened to check this one out. I think the newest addition to our community, and another one coming in the location where the well was first established. So another one coming, Lumi, Minneapolis chef who has a restaurant in the Twin Cities, now opening this being a second restaurant. Very much a very diverse menu, representation of food from the Middle East. Mediterranean is probably a better way of describing it. So that'll be coming soon.
Awesome. I know that's a big part of what the DMC has been trying to promote, is a vitalized downtown after the difficulties of the pandemic.
That's right.
It's nice to see the additions taking place.
It is.
Well, Patrick,
it is.
Thank you again for your time. Always appreciate it. And I guess we'll check in another month and see what new development is taking place, what new twist for downtown Rochester.
There's always something, Andy, and I'm happy to talk to you and enjoy the opportunity. Thanks much.
All right, Patrick Seeb with the Destination Medical Center, Rochester today on News Talk 1340, KROC AM, and 96.9 FM.